Donald Trump hates gays, although he was the first president elected who supported gay marriage before he was elected. And Donald Trump is a vicious racist, except he is courting and perhaps winning the black vote, unlike any president I've seen, well, any Republican president I've seen in my adult lifetime. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. And, you know, Bill, you mentioned in one of our segments last week that if a Republican wins 10 to 15% of the black vote, it's pretty much over for the Democrats as a national party, especially if they can get that vote to trickle down, not just for presidents, you know, in the big elections, but you trickle that down to governors, to senators, to all the rest of the elected offices. They're just finished outside of the big cities where the rest of the huge vote might be enough to save them. But there were a couple of stories this week that showed me that, guys, this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing, and it might just work for him. Just keep in mind, it was Obama to Trump voters who put that man in the White House a year and a half ago. So, Bill, the first story that caught my eye, actually, I'm going to give this one to Scott. There was sort of a smart piece by Susan Shelley in the LA Daily News this week. She wrote that speaking to a largely black audience in Lansing, Michigan, Trump said, "To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose?" She went on to write that Democratic politicians who contemptuously refer to Trump by an assortment of synonyms for idiot may be surprised when they find out that his plan to win the vote of every single African American is an active project. And she says Trump's skillfully executed plan is visible in front of everybody if you just tune in and watch him. Do you think the Democrats have tuned in? Do you think they're watching?
I think they are tuned in and they are watching, but I don't think that they're learning the correct lesson from what they're seeing.
Right.
I think that they are, like most people, I mean, most of us kind of do this, like we take in external stimuli and we use it to reinforce our preconceived notions, and it's really hard to break out of that mold. It's really hard to start with a clean slate and say, okay, what's really happening here? You know, and I don't think that there are enough people there are not enough trusted advisors, courtiers, or even court jesters around the leaders of the Democratic Party to be able to speak to them boldly and say, you're not paying attention. You're not getting it. There's something happening here that you're completely missing. And I really think it is. More and more I've seen even the growth of African American conservative commentators that it just seem to be springing up on social media and multiplying and garnering huge audiences. I think the fact that Donald Trump takes that winsome approach when he goes before an audience and basically doesn't say, you know, although he does say this, it was like, I'm better and what you believe is stupid. He basically says, look, you've been trying it this way for a long time. What harm is there in trying another way? Is everything working out the way you'd like it to? Do you really believe after 50 or 60 years of Democrat rule in the major cities and in large part in Congress that the only reason why things aren't working is because the minority Republicans have hindered the passage of sufficient funding for your bill? And I think it's those kind of entreaties that basically say, I trust you as an intellectual equal to make a valid decision if given enough information. So far, you've only been getting half the information. Here, why don't you check out the other half of the information and see if it maybe trying a different approach might make a difference. And I think that appeal is highly effective. I think when you respect people's intelligence like that and trust them to make a good decision, they will. And I've been, yearning for years for a Republican who had the guts to wade into the inner city and basically stand shoulder to shoulder with black voters and Latino voters and say the status quo is unacceptable here. You know it and I know it. Now, the same approach that you've been taking for the last 50 years that led to this is what my opponent or the other party is pushing in this race. I invite you to try something different. Test it out. It's like if you don't like it, return the unused portion for a full refund.
There you go. What I would love to see a kind of a Reagan-esque question. Is your city better off than it was 50 years ago? And what's the Democratic response to that?
5 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, here's a photo of the Detroit Library, what is it, the Mark
Oh.
Twain Public Library in Detroit.
Yeah, it's gone. It looks like it's been shelled. No, Democrats just ran the place. Same difference.
They pulled the wires out of the wall. They took the electrical fixtures. They took the chairs. They took everything, and the only thing they left in that library was the books. That's a true story.
And
Well,
it's
that's
one
the
of
only
great
thing that had no
tragedies
value.
in
Yeah.
recent
That's
American
right.
history. Just heart-achingly sad. Bill, there was kind of a dumb piece, but I'm going to quote it at you. This one was from Rochelle Riley. She wrote that Trump is appealing to black voters by inviting the presidents of some nations historically black colleges to gather in the Oval Office for a photo op and watch them do it because their schools are struggling or dying. He does it by freeing the Johnsons, freeing the history of Jack, and commuting the sentence of Alice. Anyone who thinks that Trump didn't gain some black votes by these actions last week doesn't understand the power of connecting with the disconnected. Is that all there is to it, photo ops, or does Trump have something deeper? Does he have to deliver more?
No, you're right. It's the connection, and when you get right down to it, by connecting to these inner city neighborhoods, he's finally showing people respect, to people to whom respect is paramount only because their lives are so under bombardment 24 hours a day, that personal respect is your entire life. That's the only way you survive in inner city America, is by having enough respect granted you that you person not to be messed with, and you better leave me alone. So it's critically important. It's enormously important. And to take it a little bit larger, because I think it is larger, I've said repeatedly since the Kanye West thing, the Kanye West support of Donald Trump is the most important thing that's happened in this country since the election of Donald Trump. And listening to the argument today, it hit me just like a thunderbolt. This is, in fact, I'm as serious as I can be about this.
Yeah.
This is, in fact, the easiest way to save the country that we love. It's also the best way, which is a nice combination. It's the best way and it's the easiest way. In other words, when Kanye West says, I think Donald Trump's a great guy, he's fun. Support among black males doubled from 11% to 22% in 1 week. It doubled.
Wow.
If the Democrats don't get 85% of the vote, I don't know what the exact number is, it's around 90%, 85% of the black vote, they never win national office again, which means the progressive agenda comes to a close. And all of the evidence is on our side. America's cities used to be functional. Detroit used to look like Disneyland, and now it looks like Detroit. And this argument makes sense to people. And I share your frustration on this because, and Scott's too, when I was talking in 2012 about some of the things Mitt Romney should have said he could have been president, one of the things that I mentioned in a subsequent speech was Mitt Romney should have gone to the bluest church in South Philadelphia.
That's right.
100% black church in South Philadelphia. And he should have walked in there, and he should have been prepared to deal with all the jeering and whatever he's going to get, and prepare yourself for this hostility. And this is basically what I said Mitt Romney should have said. And this is what Donald Trump is doing, and if he can get it down to this, it's game over for them. I said if I was running for president, I would have walked in there and I would have said, okay, look, I know I'm not going to get any votes here. I'm not here to get your votes. But there's a lot of things that have been said about me that aren't true. And just as a man, care enough about my reputation to come and tell you the straight truth about this. As a matter of fact, I respect you enough to have this conversation, so here we go. Then I would look out and I'd try to find the most hostile face I could find in the crowd. I'd look for the person who seemed to be the most angry. And I'd say, sir, I'd like to ask you a question, not a trick or anything. My name's Mitt Romney. Can I get your name? Jim. Okay, Jim. Look, I vote Republican because I perceive it's in my best interest to do so. You vote Democrat because you perceive it's in your best interest to do so. So we have that in common, right? That's a start. But what I'm asking you for is a chance to do something different. Instead of you vote Democrat because you get stuff, and you need stuff, because the Democrats have made your entire neighborhood into a dysfunctional war zone. So you need things like crap housing, crap transportation, crap food stamps, and crap cell phones, right? They give you this in order to get your vote, and it's junk, and you know it. If you give us a chance for 4 years, you're not going to be handed a third generation old cell phone from the government. You're going to be first in line to buy the iPhone 8 or 9 or 10 because you will have a job and you'll have so much free cash that you'll be able to do whatever you want to with yourself. And how can it be worse than this? And this is all you have to say. And the whole Emperor's New Clothes thing comes crashing down. Democrats are winning national elections or win them because the Democrats have managed to convince Black America that the only thing that could possibly be worse for them than the Democrats that currently run those cities are Republicans. That's the whole machine. That's how the machine works. They've convinced Black America that the only thing that could be worse than 8,000 homicides a year and all of the destruction of their lives and families and seeing their dead children on the streets, the only thing that could be worse than that is Republicans. And if a Republican comes in there and basically says, sir, well, I was concluding my Mitt Romney speech by saying to this guy, I said, sir, do you think you're living the best life you possibly could lead? Do you think right now you're living the best possible life you could lead? I'm going to say you're going to say no. I know it's not the best life that you could lead. So why don't we take a chance on doing that? Why don't we see if together we can improve your life? Because if your life gets better, America gets better. And that's my goal. And just to go and do that and have that human connection, and it's game over. It's over for them. All of this sense that this is an unstoppable wave of progressivism and this whole sense of the millennials and all. If we did that one thing, it's done, and it's our country again.
And Steve, I'll add to what Bill would say. I think if Mitt Romney or any other Republican politician went into an inner city black church, the only way that they're going to get a hostile reaction there is if the opposition party seeds the crowd with,
that's right.
with
Just
those
having
kind of
them
people.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, I've preached in an all-black church in an inner city, and I went home and told my wife, I have never felt more welcome anywhere in my life than I was in that church. People kissed me. I mean, that on first meeting. And that was just the warmest fellowship I ever experienced anywhere. And I think
that makes
that's the real America right there.
No. What I was going to say is, and that makes this progressive sin even more odious. The sense that the only way for these people to win political power is to divide the country along racial lines, gender lines, income lines. The fact that this hostility is generated from the top down and does not, in fact, exist from the bottom up. It's put on people by the Democrats in order to gain political power, makes every single thing that they do, by any definition of the word, just morally evil. It's evil to take what is love and affection between two human beings who are connecting on a one-to-one basis as individuals and step in between this transaction and say that guy hates you and this person hates you and to lead this division. It's disgraceful. It's dishonorable. That doesn't bother them. It's evil, is what it is. It's evil.
All right, folks. Bill and Scott talked all the big ideas that I was hoping they would talk about. So I want to talk to you about some nuts and bolts politics. There are really just 5 kinds of voters. There are your party loyalists, pretend you're a politician, who are pretty much going to turn out for you and vote no matter what, as long as you're not Richard Nixon post-Watergate or something like that. You have your party leaners who you have to do some convincing. You can't be a bad guy. You've got to have your turnout machine, but more or less you can depend on them voting. And if the other guy sucks, then those 2 kinds of voters might be enough to win you the election. The third kind of voter are the actual independents. Sometimes they vote Democrat, sometimes they vote Republican, and you've got to hustle for those votes. You've got to have a record. You've got to say the right things. Your turnout machine has to be excellent, and that can give you a really solid win if you win over those people in the middle. And then on the other side, they have their people who lean in their direction, and they've got to work to get those people to the polls, and that might be enough to get them to win. And then, of course, there are the other guys, absolute party loyalists, just like yours, who are going to turn out and vote for them pretty much no matter what. And those are your 5 basic types of voters. And it's increasingly difficult to win them over as you go up that scale from your loyalists to their loyalists. But there's nothing better than winning the vote of their party loyalists, because you're not winning 1 vote, you're winning 2 votes. You're winning
That's
one.
right.
You're winning one for yourself, and you're taking one from the other guy. And if you win over their leaners, like Reagan did in 1984, you can have a blowout election. But if you start peeling off their party loyalists in a real and substantial way, what you end up with isn't a blowout election. You end up with a political realignment. And these things, they don't happen even so much as once in a generation. These things are maybe once every 50 years, once every century.
That's
They
right.
are a very rare thing. But if Trump can continue to deliver, I should say, on jobs and wages to the black community, and continue to work like no other Republican in my political lifetime has to peel away those voters that he, unlike the Democrats, is actually delivering jobs to, we could be witnessing a political realignment the likes of which we might not have seen since the New Deal in the 1930s. And that would be a hell of a thing, and it would be the end of the Democrats, but I repeat myself. And that's your right angle on that. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see, please click over to BillWhittle.com, become a member. We would love to have you on the team, and that's me trying to win your vote. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.